Howdy everyone, the time is 8:23 p.m. and it is September 16th. Welcome to another update from Great Lakes Weather. There is quite a bit to talk about in terms of the weather. We do have some severe weather potential on Sunday across parts of Illinois. Don't really think it's going to make it to the Great Lakes region, but it may impact Indiana just a little bit, so we'll look at that in just a minute. And then also on Wednesday. Now, Wednesday is kind of a little bit of an unpredictable scenario at the moment, but there are some pretty strong signals of a severe weather event in the Great Lakes region later on Wednesday. So definitely going to be a potential storm chase day for me, and we're going to get into all of that and break down exactly what could be taking place with this event. So let's do that real quick. Don't forget to subscribe to all the different platforms that we have and make sure you are ready for any severe weather that comes our way. And we will try to keep you updated there. All right, let's get right to it. We've got a lot to get to. All right, so let's start with the Storm Prediction Center. What the Storm Prediction Center is really talking about here. This is the day 4 through 8 outlook. I'm actually going to go back to the home page for the Storm Prediction Center real quick. So right now we have multiple slight risk areas for day 2, day 1, day 2, day 3. Different event potentials across the Great Lakes region is associated with a low pressure system that is starting to move through the area, and there is potential for all severe hazards with the storms that are moving into Minnesota and Iowa tomorrow. And then Sunday, it moves a little bit further to the east, okay? So you got areas such as northwestern Indiana and extreme southwestern lower Michigan that are under a marginal risk area. That will likely be later in the evening, but those storms could potentially move into the area and produce severe hazards, specifically more in the forms of hail. So that is likely on Sunday. And then day 4 through 8, so far the current plan for Wednesday, the SPC puts that at a predictability too low, which is definitely understandable because some models are disagreeing with the Wednesday scenario, which we'll look at in just a second. But they do notice there are some signals for severe weather, and I want to show you the signals because according to the ECMWF, which is the more reliable model, it is coming out some pretty decent signals for severe weather in Michigan, in particular, Michigan and parts of Indiana on Wednesday. So let's get right to it. Let's go to the GFS model with an update with regards to this. First of all, let's talk about the heat. It's been quite hot, very hot for late September. We're getting temperatures in the mid-upper 80s right now. May even make a run at 90 at some point. But it looks like we're probably going to stay in the 80s, especially across parts of Michigan. But that's really going to settle over the area over the next several days, okay? Sunday, we're going to see a little bit of a brief cool down with that rain that's going to be moving through, but then it's going to heat back up for Tuesday and Wednesday. Wednesday of next week is likely going to be the hottest day we have with this fall heat wave, and that is the time of that severe weather event that I am most keeping my closest eye on with regards to what potentially could occur. So let's look at how the weather is going to change in this area over the next couple of days. So you kind of see this is at 7 p.m. right now, so right about 7 p.m. like an hour ago. Temperatures are in the 70s across much of the area. It's starting to cool down. The dew points are relatively elevated still. I'm looking at my chart right now, and it's 90% relative humidity with 65 degrees. So it still is pretty humid out there. We're close to the dew point here, but it looks like we'll get down to about close to 60 across parts of Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio, which is typical. We tend to get pretty cool in during the fall evenings around here. Then things will begin to reheat up. By about 1 p.m. Saturday, we'll be back in the mid-80s across much of the Great Lakes region, getting up into the 70s in the Upper Peninsula on Saturday as well. And you can kind of see down here, you'll gradually see this plume of very warm temperatures. Now keep in mind, this is the heat index. This is what it feels like. This is not what it actually is outside. But it feels like the 90s down here in Kansas and Nebraska, getting into Nebraska at parts. So this is going to be moving off to the north and east slowly but surely, and it's going to make our way into the area. We'll have a brief cold front that moves through on Sunday, bringing some rainfall, and you can kind of see that appearing and kind of breaking down some of those warm air areas in parts of the upper Midwest, the Mississippi River Valley, Illinois, Missouri, those areas there. Cools down again Monday. You can really see things are going to start to heat up. Southern Indiana, you're going to be in the 90s or feel like the 90s on Monday afternoon, and areas in Michigan will start to heat up and feel like the 80s. So not as warm as it is today and tomorrow, but still relatively warm for this time of the year. Now, on Tuesday, we see it heat up again, and this time it spreads much more across parts of the Great Lakes region. So you got 90s feeling like, once again, in Indiana, and then 80s, upper 80s even in parts of southwest lower Michigan, upper 80s in Ohio. You can see that plume of warm air really starting to build. You got heat indexes. Look at this. Heat indexes of 100 on September 20th across parts of Iowa, Missouri, and Illinois. That is very warm, something you don't usually see around this time of the year. But that will eventually move completely into the Great Lakes region, and we're going to have upper 90s feels like readings in parts of Indiana, even in the 90s across parts of Michigan as well, even as far north as Grand Rapids even. So it's going to be quite warm, even with, you can see that cold front starting to kind of evolve or develop, show itself along this area, northern Iowa, northern Wisconsin, northern Michigan. GFS doesn't really hint at those severe potentials right now, but let's take a look at how quickly this cold front's going to cool things down with the rainfall moving through. So it's going to quickly cool things down. You still got, feels like, readings in the 90s around here at about 3 p.m. Then it really starts to cool down as that cold front really starts to push through later on that afternoon. And you can see GFS actually is putting out some marginal severe potential. So it is agreeing on the fact that there does look like some severe weather potential across parts of the Great Lakes region, but it doesn't show like the ECMWF does show, and I want to pay attention to that as we get into this. And then behind that, you can really see temperatures start to fill in, much cooler temperatures, in fact, start to fill in by September 23rd, and by 7 a.m. Friday morning, we could be making runs at freezing point across parts of Wisconsin, Minnesota, and northern Michigan. So it's a pretty dramatic pattern change associated with this cold front, and with that dramatic pattern change comes the stronger storms. So let's take a look at how the ECMWF model portrays this particular event, because the way they're portraying it right now, based on the current model soundings, it looks rather significant. So we're going to look at what ECMWF is portraying with this event right now. We'll also look at the one that's going to be happening on Saturday as well. So ECMWF high res, we're looking at the precipitation type and rate. I actually want to go to a better view if we have this view here. I don't think we have it with this particular model, so won't be looking at it right now. I wanted to look at the composite reflectivity, but it doesn't look like I have that available here. But precipitation type and rate, what kind of storms will we be seeing? We may see those showers and thunderstorms develop tomorrow or we had some showers and thunderstorms develop today. Tomorrow we will have some more develop in those potential slight risk areas. So this is one of those plumes of storms that might develop. Doesn't really show too much severe potential on the GFS model. But we get into the afternoon, see that low pressure system starting to kind of filter into Minnesota. Marginal severe potential across parts of Minnesota. You can see that photograph. It doesn't really look super conducive for a tornado development, but it does look like it could pack some damaging wind gusts and maybe some small hail. So let's continue with that progression. You can kind of see these storms will still kind of stay alive through overnight on Sunday or on Saturday night. And then by Sunday, maybe some shower and thunderstorm activity moving through parts of Michigan, which this activity is not expected to be severe. Just looking like it's going to be some general thunderstorm activity weakening and dying out quickly as we get rising temperatures during the morning, soaking in that moisture. But with this particular setup here, Sunday afternoon and late Sunday evening, we've got some showers and thunderstorm potential across parts of Illinois, and then that marginal risk does extend into parts of Indiana as well. Now, this particular view of it does not really show a conducive environment for severe weather based on the ECMWF unless you go prior to the development of these storms, where it does show some marginal tornado potential. A not really decent hodograph for a tornado development, but it does look conducive for small hail in this particular scenario. There's a little bit of convective inhibition, but there's enough CAPE to combat that. So we might see some storms breaking through the cap during that day. Supercell composites at level 8, which is a relatively higher level than typical, but it looks more like a decent hail threat exists with the storms that will be moving through, packing that marginal severe potential once again. Now, These will eventually die out. Looks like they may see some additional development over western Indiana with some weak indicators of some severe weather development across that area. Those scattered thunderstorms will begin to die out on Monday, and then we'll relatively get a break from the activity. May see a few pop-up showers and thunderstorms on Tuesday across Wisconsin, where they may see some severe storms on the western side of the lake, but there may be some limiting factors that contribute to a weaker setup for that particular event. Those storms may make it to Michigan, but it's likely that they will not be strong when they make it there on Tuesday. And there's a lower chance most people in the Great Lakes region will stay dry on Tuesday. Now, Wednesday's the big day, according to the ECMWF. So let's take a look at what could potentially be happening with this event. You got this cold front that is kind of the lifting mechanism supporting these storms. They're gonna kind of intensify and kind of scatter across the Upper Peninsula, and then you've got a nice, decent line of storms packing a punch here in parts of central Michigan. You get a sounding from just east of Grand Rapids. Very decent sounding for severe weather development. You got supercell composite values in the 20s, CAPE levels of 3,000, which is definitely enough. Got those very high top clouds with lower cloud bases, and the tornado potential does look pretty decent with this setup. The hodograph, you've got that curvature a little bit, so there's decent low level winds with this setup, so it does look like a pretty decent setup for some severe storms that could be capable of packing all severe hazards. You have temperatures in the 80s, upper 80s on this day. Strange for late September to see upper 80s in some cases. And then dew points of up to 70. This is kind of a typical, you don't really see a setup like this this warm of a setup across parts of the Great Lakes region this late in the year on September 21st. So decent setup, and you've got much cooler air that's going to be filtering in on the backside. That lifting mechanism is going to be quite strong and support these storms. Now I want to take a pause at this particular time frame here, 1 hour 129. So this is 3 p.m. Wednesday, okay? So you've got storms up in Grand Rapids. I actually want to zoom in on a more state level view. So let's do that real quick. Let's get a local visual on this particular thing. So Mount Pleasant will be seeing these storms around 3 p.m. on Wednesday if this forecast holds up. Supercell composite value is going to be lower, but let's get a look at that severe weather, those severe weather dynamics here. CAPE values 3,000 up to 3,500 across parts of the Great Lakes region. And then look at those changes in the wind values. You have your southern surface winds, your southwestern mid-level winds, and then in the upper levels you have westerly winds, which means you've got the stuff for some helicity in the air, some wind shear in the atmosphere. Got those curvatures again with that passing cold front, that ahead of that passing cold front, that are capable of packing those severe storms with potential for a possible tornado with those. Again, keep in mind that this is still a few days out, so though it is showing some pretty decent setup for a severe weather event, we do need to make sure that we are not confirming this as what is actually going to happen. But if it does happen, you're going to want to be aware of what's going on with the weather on Wednesday. And I will likely be storm chasing, definitely targeting, once I get out at around 3 o'clock, I will be targeting this area between Ann Arbor and Battle Creek, okay? Ann Arbor, Battle Creek, and also staying south of Lansing. This area has the greatest potential later on in the afternoon, after 3 p.m., to see those severe storms as they move off to the south and east. And they're going to be moving relatively quickly, so they will pack quite a punch, okay? So this area will be my chase zone unless the models change, which they most likely will over the next several days. But with the current strong soundings from this particular event, I think it is safe to say that we could definitely see some severe weather on Wednesday if this model holds up. Now, if we zoom out a little bit, I can get a better view of some things going on with the weather forecast. You've got some wind shear that is out from the northwest ahead of the storms moving through, and that's going to fuel some helicity in the atmosphere as well. So that bulk shear coming out of the northwest could really fuel some feel some changes in the atmosphere as well. Lapse rates, relatively steeper across parts of the Great Lakes region. That will help with the setup of storms. So I want to look at the SRH real quick, if I can get a view of that. We'll have to switch to the GFS and see what the GFS is saying. So GFS actually places the CAPE values. Let's look at the surface-based CAPE. Relatively weaker CAPE values of about 2,000, still enough for thunderstorm development. SRH, storm relative helicity, showing some helicity on the eastern side of the state. Once again, there is SRH in the atmosphere, so the measure of spin in the atmosphere, and then you can get a measurement of your supercell composite. If I were to go back to the ECMWF model, which I'm going to, and take a look at this ECMWF model, I do want to zoom out to a national view. You can see this plume of lapse rates. I actually want to look at the CAPE though. You can see this CAPE right ahead of that cold front. You can kind of see where the cold front is even with the CAPE right here as well. So lots of instability in the atmosphere. You're going to have a lot of energy fueled by the potential sunshine we'll have prior to this event and the moisture that is going to be residing in the atmosphere. And with that lifting mechanism coming in, you've got storms coming your way. So Wednesday is a day to be watching, I guess you could say, with this rather impressive sounding from Michigan regarding these storms with supercell composites of level 24. It's something to be watching. So make sure you're weather aware. Make sure to like and subscribe to keep updated, and check out our website. I think it is attached in our channel. We have a podcast coming out that is brought to you by some of the students that I teach this stuff to. So make sure that you check that out and take advantage of that opportunity to see what knowledge they are going to try to share with you. And enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will continue to publish updates on this storm as it evolves. I will see you all a little later.